Howdy, howdy. We are live on another Friday night for the weekly Tex-Trek show, your place to go for some live Star Trek deep dive discussions. And we are talking about this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks that I don't know if you've noticed, but people have a lot of strong opinions about this one. So,
Strong. I just
yeah.
was quickly looking at the comments on the post you made on Twitter, Fatherian. Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of
Some good
strong
stuff in there too.
reactions to this. I definitely have some really strong feelings about this episode that I haven't shared
Yeah,
anywhere
you haven't shared.
online.
I don't
So
know. I don't
I'm
know. And also, this will be fun for the audience to come back next week to hear some of these responses for this week's episode too.
yeah, so I think this episode will generate a lot of fun things to discuss, especially for those in our live audience that are joining us currently. I hope that you're able to
Yay!
sound off there in the live chat. But Starfleet boy, I think we should just go ahead and get the show started.
Let's do it. Caca!
I'm Fathery.
I'm Starfleet boy.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 211th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 7, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption, written by Ann Kim and directed by Jason Zurek. Before we get into that, though, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping. And first and foremost, I want to thank everyone who helps us out in the Tex-Trek Patreon. That means a lot to us. If you're able to chip in a little bit each month, it goes a long way to helping us cover the expenses that are required for us to continue to do the show. So it's been a real help and a kind of a just weight off of my shoulders this year, thanks to some of our Patreon supporters, because with the StreamYard subscription, the podcast hosting, the web hosting, it does add up. So thank you for helping us out with that, and hopefully we'll be able to improve and do more cool, fun stuff. But my dog is getting excited right now, but I just want to give a thank you to you, Starfleet boy, my lovely co-host, but also Cake is Eternal, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, Crazy Dutchy, Joanne Robertson, Quark Spar, John Dawes, and our anonymous supporters. Thank you all so much. And if you would like to join our Patreon supporters, you can come in at various different tiers or different perks, but you can come in as little as $2 a month. That will get you into our monthly episode watch parties we do. We're doing one very soon on Saturday, October 15th. We're watching the Star Trek Voyager episode, The Thaw. So we are in the spooky season, the horror movie time of year, as Halloween approaches. So we're going to watch a scary Star Trek episode. If you don't remember, The Thaw is the one with the scary clown. Turns Harry Kim into a baby and other frightening things.
Played by a famous actor. What's his name? Michael McKean.
Yes. So very memorable role, very memorable episode. Also, if you're checking us out live on Friday, then you need to come back in 24 hours tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central on Saturday, because it is New York Comic Con tomorrow, and there's going to be a lot of Star Trek news.
There's going to be so much Star Trek news.
The entire TNG cast is going to be there, united together on stage, all 7 of the big 7, promoting Picard Season 3. I think it's a very safe bet we'll get a new trailer for Picard Season 3 that'll actually show us some of the story. We're probably going to find out who the big bad villain they've been teasing is. So I think that'll be real delight. There's also going to be some Discovery stuff. Sonequa Martin Green and showrunner Michelle Paradise will be present, and a ton of Prodigy people are showed up, a lot of the voice actors and some of the writer producers. So I think they're going to be giving us something to tease the return of Prodigy coming very soon on October 27th. And yeah, we'll be covering Prodigy as well as the Lower Decks finale that airs that week. And we'll just transition from a weekly Lower Decks show into a weekly Prodigy show, as is kind of the way that we operate on Tex-Trek. But yeah, so if you just listen to the podcast, if you're not checking us out on YouTube, but you're listening to us somewhere else, then you can find some additional coverage, some additional things we do over on YouTube, like the New York Comic Con reaction and breakdown. We're going to go over any trailers, any clips, any news, stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to unpack all of that. I'm really looking forward to that. And if you're listening to this later, it should already be on YouTube somewhere. So just go check that out on the Tex-Trek YouTube channel. But I think that's all of like our news and everything.
No,
What do you got,
there's one more piece of housekeeping, maybe a couple actually. The first order of business is that we are 61 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. I'm actually very confident that we're going to hit it before the end of the year, so I'm not stressing too much. But if we can keep pushing, because we don't want to lose sight of the goal here, friends. So please retweet all of Fathery's Tex-Trek subscribe YouTube related tweets. And please tell your friends about it. Send an email. I do that. I'll send like an email saying, hey, you should check out this podcast. Maybe to a friend who likes Star Trek that you haven't talked to in a long time. I think
we have 85 days left in the year as of day of recording today. So
I'm sacrificing promoting Starfleet Boy for this. I should be like, oh yeah, like go subscribe to Starfleet Boy, but no.
Yes, if you don't know why he's so excited about this, my least favorite. I was going to say my least favorite song, but maybe my least favorite thing ever just in the universe is Faith of the Heart, the Star Trek Enterprise theme song that is god awful. And it's insane to me that all of a sudden a few years ago, people were like, oh, I actually like it. But
can we do a Star is Born style duet, Father?
You want to do a duet? Yes. I think this has to be like my my cross to
okay, fine, yeah, I agree.
But if y'all can get us to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year on YouTube, I will sing that dreaded song. So I'll make a little special music video of myself singing it.
And then one other thing real quick, Thomas Hill was asking, why don't you start with the California class ship? It's because the Starship Texas is an ambassador class ship, and that's why.
Yes, yeah, that is the USS Texas NCC 26308.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I don't remember, but
no, that's right.
Yes, you, Father. Is the Texas landing?
No, that'll never be a t-shirt. You should have surprised me with that. You should have just, like, the next time I see you at a convention or something, just showed up with like a t-shirt of an ambassador class ship that says the Texas is landing. Like I would have just lost my shit if I saw that.
Yes, but... or you might have gotten mad. So I don't know which one.
No, I think that would have cracked me up.
Good.
But yeah, if people want to help us out, you can subscribe on YouTube. Or if you want to be extra generous, you can join the Patreon. And no matter what, we would love if you wanted to be part of the community we have over on the Tex-Trek Discord server. That's right. Open to everyone. There's a link in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this. You should be able to access the Discord. So we'd love to stay in touch with you over there. But yeah, so exciting things. New York Comic Con tomorrow, and then a Patreon watch party in a week on October 15th. Right. So really cool stuff.
So Kaka, yes, Comic-Con is streaming, I believe, on YouTube. If you go to their official page, there will be a link, so you'll be able to. And I imagine
the event will be streamed.
And I imagine that the Star Trek official account will be tweeting out.
I'm not sure exactly where it will be, but it might be on like the ReadPop website for New York Comic Con. I can't remember where it was last year, but
I found it through YouTube somehow last time. So it was really
it'll be out there.
Yeah, it'll be out there. But tomorrow there will be a stream on Tex-Trek after like around 7.
Right. Yeah, the actual event will be at I think 4 Central. So 5 Eastern, and it's going to run for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be a lot to unpack afterwards. So that's why we'll be following up a little bit shortly after it wraps, so that we'll be able to break it all down and discuss.
That was a lot of housekeeping.
It was. Well, let's get into our main topic, shall we? With this episode, a mathematically perfect redemption. I'm going to quickly recap it by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers just to refresh it for everyone. But the official synopsis reads, a wayward Starfleet ensign struggles to find a path to redemption. And that doesn't give away much. But yeah, the wayward Starfleet ensign is the one and only Peanut Hamper. We haven't seen her since the season 1 finale, No Small Parts. But yeah, we basically open on her point of view. We see what she's been up to, stranded after she turned her back on the Cerritos crew. And we follow her on her journey to a new planet to meet a new people and have the opportunity to redeem herself, only to refuse again. So, like I said, a lot of strong opinions on this. I think Peanut Hamper is a very divisive character. It seems to be kind of a you either love her or you hate her type of thing, and a lot of people feel strongly about both of those. But Starfleet Boy, I would just like to start with you. Can you tell us your opening statements? Just kind of give us your broad impression on this episode, and then we'll get into the specifics later.
Well, for me, Peanut Hamper is the same as like like Kai Wynn. You love to hate Peanut Hamper. Like that's the kind of character they are. They're so just completely Peanut Hamper is a narcissist. So if you want to know what like a narcissist is like, it's insanity. It's like Peanut Hamper. So or Kai Wynn or Gul Dukat, or who else in the Star Trek is the level of Peanut Hamper but anyways, so broadly I would just say I really enjoy Peanut Hamper as a character, and getting their own episode or her own episode was a delight for me as a Peanut Hamper, someone who enjoys that character. And then aside from that, I was like totally interested in the what, how do they say themselves plurally, Father? It's the Errol's or something like that. I forget.
The Errol's.
I got it right. All right.
No,
cool.
that's not right. I was saying that with like a question mark, like the Errol's. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I just loved it. I love their whole little Baku like thing of like having left technology behind to live in this kind of like peaceful society of where it's kind of like a mini federation. Like everyone's needs are met, everyone's like doing something. I didn't see any money there or anything like that, so I just loved that whole society. And then Raw Dog was just hot. I wish.
So you're talking about Rada and the Arior, right?
Arior,
that's what they're called, the Arior,
yes,
right?
The Arior, yes.
On the planet Areolus.
Yes. I'm choosing to call Radar Raw Dog. But yeah, I like this episode a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm not going to give it above the DS9 episode. Like, I'm not going to let this be the best episode of the season. I'm going to wait now. I'm going to let DS9 like kind of stay there. Last week's episode, what is it here? Hear Everything, Trust Nothing, or what the title was. Yeah. But this is like right underneath it, or like maybe just slightly below it. I love this episode. It was hilarious. This whole season so far is just delightful, is the only way I can put it, and I'm really happy. Like it makes me glad to have a break from the serious, and I don't have a lot of time to get into anything else other than like a few things. So the fact that Star Trek is there doing that for me every year for like a whole season just makes me so happy.
Well, I'm gonna sorry, my dog's being loud. I'm gonna disagree with you. You said you're not going to say this is the best episode of the season. I am. This is the best episode of the season. This is arguably the best episode of the show. I think it sits right up there next to Wage Douche. They rival each other. And the genius of this episode, like Wage Douche, is it takes the lower deck concept and applies it within itself. A show that's about the unimportant people that don't get the spotlight very often. That's what the original Lower Decks episode was on The Next Generation. That kind of started this whole kind of subgenre that like various TV shows, they'd be like, we need to do a Lower Decks episode and focus on, our unimportant side characters. They did a version of that in Wage Douche, where we got to see the lower deckers on other ships and other fleets. And then they do a version of it here with Peanut Hamper, who I think is one of the best villains in Star Trek. It's like I hated this character so much by the end of this, and I felt that betrayal that was so incredibly effective. I've complained, I've mentioned it before. I complained about sometimes there's like these Star Trek Lower Decks misdirections that frustrate me when I see them coming. I'm like, they need to stop. I remember the beginning of season 3 saying they need to stop doing that. They rely on that too much and it doesn't work enough, and it gets on my nerves when it doesn't work. I gotta stop that criticism immediately because it was so incredibly effective here. And I totally thought, okay, yeah, this is like the perfect setup. I can't believe they're going to do the impossible and make me forgive Peanut Hamper, make me like accept this character. And oh, that is so cool and genuine. And then no, they pulled the rug out from under me. And yeah, I'm like left in tears like Rada and the Cerritos crew who are all like disappointed and everything. And they give the character just enough dimensionality that they can have like their totally shitty bad guy character, but there's like enough substance there that you can still kind of plug into. It's like the original exocomp thing was like the exocomps didn't want to just go die on the mission. They wanted to live. They want, true. and so Peanut Hamper is like taking that to like the next level, to like this very selfish territory. But it does make you think like, yeah, I can understand, not wanting to carry that burden of having to be, you have to sacrifice yourself for the rest of us. Like
I have to go back and watch Peanut Hampers for, in the season finale for season 1, but when they did the flashback this time, I was like, wait a second, you guys are setting this up for Peanut Hamper. Like, like they're like, who can go into outer space without like a spacesuit? Who could do this? Like, who could do that? Oh, it's Peanut Hamper. So like from her perspective, that was like, oh shit, this is like really shitty.
And I think Heather Donahue did a great job carrying the episode with with her voice performance, and yeah, just I love that they're swinging for the fences, that they're going big, that they're willing to like do like weird stuff like this.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for going boldly.
Radar,
which is what I always want Star Trek to do.
Radar and Peanut Hamper must fight again. Must fight at some point. There's got to be like a war. On top of that, Father, the ship stuff was like super cool. Like I thought their ancestors' ships were really neat. It made me wonder things like, how long ago were they spacefaring, and like were they around during like the same time as like the Takan Empire or something like that? So the Areolan Empire or whatever. What was it like? Because they seem like really, Star Trek has this like ancient aliens before humanity reached the stars thing that comes up every now and then. So these characters are kind of like a glimpse into that world, I think, or this civilization is a glimpse into that world.
Well, let's just go ahead and get to the episode breakdown. You're starting with the very beginning. We get that previously on flashback that takes us back to no small parts to the pack-led attack on the Cerritos. The clump ship has the Cerritos in its clutches, and yeah, they need someone to go deliver. If you don't remember, they need someone to go deliver Badgie over to the ship so that he can destroy it. And when Peanut Hamper refuses and beams out of the ship, Shax ends up being the one going over there with Baby Bear Rutherford. But yeah, so we get to see her, watching all of this, and you can kind of like get it from her perspective. She's like, oh my God, they wanted me to do that. Oh, look, that ship blew up. The big guy died. Wow, so glad I didn't volunteer. And then when they're surrounded by the other clump ships, Peanut Hamper is kind of like, she's kind of validated because she was like, see, even if I had sacrificed myself, all these other ships still would have come and shown up. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't do that. Of course, the Titan ends up, rescuing the Cerritos, and Peanut Hamper is left alone in space. But I was like, well, yeah, they're actually doing a good job of like getting the audience to see things from Peanut Hamper's perspective, and that surprised me.
I really liked seeing that same battle from a completely different perspective. it was a neat thing, like seeing, you know, the little tiny shuttlecraft crash into the Packlet ship, and like, you know, it was neat. It reminded me of, there was something like that in Star Trek Discovery, right? In season 2 at the end, isn't Burnham just kind of like floating out there looking at the battle from like a different view than than we're used to, or something
Oh,
like
don't get me
that?
started on Such Sweet Sorrow part 2. I did not like that episode. This is a much better episode of Star Trek, but that did have like some cool visuals in it though.
Right.
What
But
do you
yeah,
think of
I liked seeing that. Yeah.
what do you think of the alternative opening credit sequence that we got with like the sadder version of the Lower Decks theme as Peanut Hamper's floating around lonely in space?
Loved it. Loved everything. I was remarking about this on our Twitter Space thing, that that it felt like a little bit like Generations, like, you know, like it had that pacing to it or whatever, with Peanut Hamper floating around instead of like a bottle of champagne.
You're just gonna bring up like all the Star Trek I don't like. You got
I
Such
love
Sweet
those.
Sorrow. We got Generations.
Wow, Father, like you're so censorious these days.
Uh, I did notice that they showed Rutherford's old implant floating around among the debris. So I wonder if that's just to remind us that maybe
Oh,
that's how they're gonna eventually bring Badgie back. Maybe he's like stored
inside the implant.
in the implant, and so if we're gonna have like some more evil artificial intelligence team up at some point, maybe Badgie will enter the fold and return to the show. Just throwing that out there.
That's a really good catch. I like that. I think that is gonna happen. Badgie and Peanut Hamper have to team. It's like Gul Dukat and Kai Wynn. That's awesome.
And I
Very
think
epic.
that doing like an alternative opening credit sequence like that, it was a good way to let us know this was going to be kind of an alternative version of the show, right? We're going to see something from Peanut Hamper's perspective. And I was
Right.
watching this, I was kind of hoping like, oh, I hope that we just follow this weird exocomp character the whole episode. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we only see like the Cerritos for like, I knew like, okay, there's no way they're just gonna not have those characters show up at all. Like contractually, I'm sure like Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid have to, maybe other people have to be in like every single episode. But what if they only like show up for like one scene? I loved also like having no idea what was going to happen next. They did a good job of like keeping this episode secret. We knew that eventually we were going to get to Peanut Hamper in season 3, but I love like they didn't give much away. So yeah, like when I see her hiding out, trying to build her warp engine to get back to civilization, I was like, man, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen next, and that really excites me.
Mm-hmm.
I heard some people complain about like, yeah, this isn't like the show I want to watch every week. This isn't Lower Decks. This is like weird Peanut Hamper adventure show. I get that criticism, but to me, like that's part of what excited me about it so much. Is it was kind of like watching that Next Generation episode Lower Decks, and you're like, why am I following these lowly ensigns? Why am I not following Geordi and Riker and Troy and Worf? Why am I focusing on these unimportant people? These people that typically are just there to be in the background, and I think that there might be other ways that Lower Decks can explore that. We did it in Wage Douge in season 2. We did it with
Right.
Peanut Hamper in season 3. I wonder if they're going to try to do something like this again in future seasons. I think that'd be really cool if
I
they
hope
keep that in
so.
mind. Yeah,
I hope they
that
keep
like
this
Lower
like
Decks concept.
right. I hope they keep this concept going in this kind of uh like it becomes a tradition, like one episode like this every season. Yeah, all those things. I agree with everything you were saying. Pretty spot on about how I feel as well.
And I
Um
liked her line of dialogue. I hate Starfleet. What about the needs of the me? And the whole like the needs of the mini and the needs of the
I
few or
had to
whatever.
tweet
But
that. That was so funny. But the like well, this is an homage to Castaway with Tom Hanks.
I've
But the
never seen
whole
that movie Castaway, but I know about Wilson the
yeah,
volleyball.
yeah. So Sophia is an exocomp made of like, what was it? Like like I guess like pieces of debris
Yeah,
or whatever.
Peanut Hamper built a little friend, Sophia, I guess, as a companion, which foreshadows her own selfishness. Because then when the Drukmani ship, by the
Yes.
way, I love seeing the Drukmani again, but when they show up to, harvest all of these scrap parts, she throws Sophia to the wolves, right after being like, okay, friend, we're in this together. And then she was like, oops, sorry, I gotta save myself.
I feel like Tom Hanks's character would have done the same thing if it
I mean,
came
it's
down to it.
like an inanimate object, like it's
Right.
not a sentient being. So,
but it 100% does foreshadow it. I didn't catch that upon watching it the first time. This thing is cool. Look at what they built. Look, Peanut Hamper built. It's like a really neat looking rudimentary, propulsion system.
I liked the warp rig that Peanut Hamper built.
Yeah,
it
warp
had like a
rig.
nacelle, and then it has like a deflector dish in the front of it. So I thought it was interesting design. In fact, I would love to have an Eagle Moss model of this, of Peanut Hamper strapped in to her warp setup. I appreciated that they had her like scrounging around looking for dilithium. And they added that little detail, although it was weird to me that they said warp factor 0.02 or 0.03. It's like, no, this thing is like clearly like breaking the warp barrier. Like you're going faster than the speed of light.
Totally.
When she takes off. And I also need to point out that the Drukmani, having them show up again, it's more of Lower Decks using its own lore and its own creations.
Right.
There's a lot of that in this episode. It was either new stuff or things that was established earlier in Lower Decks.
And another great cameo by J.G. Hertzler, which was awesome. So that's always a good thing to bring back voice actors from the other Trek series. And there's another one later on.
Yes, but both of them are reprising characters that they had played earlier in Lower Decks.
On Lower Decks, which is great.
Not characters from other parts of Star Trek.
Right, that's true. Exactly.
But yeah, seeing her escape from her little makeshift home and then crash on this planet and wake up and not know where she was. This is when I was like really plugging in. I was like, yes, I love this. I'm excited. I'm thrilled because I have no idea. We see so much stuff ahead of time. We see like the trailers and then like the preview images and all kinds of stuff. And we spend so many hours, on the internet speculating and theory crafting and trying to forecast what's going to happen. And I just love, plugging into a story like this and being like, yeah, tell me what happens next. I have no idea. When she wakes up around the little owl children, which one was like really cute when she's like, oh no, the space box has awoken. But like the way she said like awoken was like an owl, like awoken, like, ooh, like it was funny. It was cute. But yeah, there she meets Clitoris, the village leader.
That's not his name. What
is it then? It's Raw Dog and Clitoris, right?
Okay, it's fine.
That's his name. Tell me his real name.
I can't name it. I can't remember now because you've replaced it. I had it in. It's like clitoris, or I think it's clitoris.
All the things named on this planet are like really, but really perverted.
I think it's clitoris. I think he says his name is clitoris. Oh my gosh, probably I have to mute my video because I can't stop laughing right now.
Kaltoris is how you
Kaltoris. Oh my gosh.
Father of Raw Dog.
I hope no one from the writer's room is watching this.
Well, they're the ones who came up with all this shit, so blame it on them. Do you know what though? To get serious for a moment though, you know what I actually thought they were doing with him? Is that I at first I couldn't tell who the voice actor was.
I think it's Paul F. Tompkins, right?
It might have been.
Oh, okay.
But at first I was like wondering, is that John Billingsley? Because originally he thought he was gonna play Dr. Phlox as like a bird character.
Yes.
And it kind of sounded like it kind of sounded like his bird voice, that he thought he was just gonna play like Dr. Phlox, like this guy making all these weird bird noises. And then when they started shooting the first episode of Enterprise, like the director told him like, John, stop fucking around. So he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to be like a bird like alien.
I would have. Oh, that's a great idea for a cameo. But also, how cool would it have been if Phlox was like an I can't say it anymore. Aurelian. No, those are from T.
An areola. Arior.
Arior, thank you.
You're making me start to
Arior.
forget how to pronounce all of this stuff.
We should have a master list for this one. Wait, you do? Hold on.
Okay. So the actual name is Kaltoris of Arior, right? Okay.
That's right. And
We're
he's
good.
the
Okay.
main guy. He's the
Yes.
chief.
Father of Ralda. Yes, the village leader. I
Who I'm
did.
in love with, by the way. The only thing I don't want is the only trait I thought was unattractive about Radar was that he cries after
Ralda.
sex.
Ralda.
Radar.
Rawda.
He cries after sex, and that's not very attractive to me. But it's okay. I understand if people are emotional after sex and need to cry, and I guess I could live with it. I could, with all his other wonderful traits, I guess I could live with him crying after sex. It's okay.
Well, the thing that did, I guess, bug me a little bit here when we first get our introduction to the village and Kaltoris is when he's pulls out the knife and it kind of makes you think like, oh, I'm gonna attack Peanut Hamper, or at least it wants you to think that like he's thinking that, but then he's like, oh no, I was just trying to clean you off. It's like, come on, Lower Decks, you're doing like that misdirect thing that I see coming. But later the episode would make me eat those words. But yeah, you want to like get into like the life in the village and stuff that we get. He kind of takes her on a little tour, and he's all excited. He's like, oh look, I got like this strange new visitor from an outer space. Let me show you our society. And she's just like so like disinterested. But I noticed that she had like the line about like her android intuition. You remember she says something like she's getting like the feeling everyone hates her. Her android intuition is telling her that.
Right.
Androids are like when robots look like humans. It's not just like any robot is not an android. So
that's a good
Peanut
point.
Hamper, you're not an android.
Maybe Peanut Hamper like sees themselves as like some kind of humanoid. Like maybe they think they have a projection unit that's broken or something, and so they have no idea that they're not projecting this like false image of a humanoid.
Or maybe the term android just changes in the future. But
yeah, that's true.
The line shortly after that where she just, when she realizes like, oh, like you never have contact with like off-world people, like the Federation never comes here, nothing, like, and she just says like fuck, and he's like, fuck, what does that mean? And she's like, oh, it's just something we space folks say when we're stranded on a backwater planet with no culture. And he's like, oh yes, fuck indeed. And it's like, I love the bleeps. I love that they bleep out the curse words on Lower Decks, because if they hadn't have bleeped those, it wouldn't have been nearly as funny.
Right. No, that is part of the humor.
Yeah, a big part of the humor is coming from the language being kind of taboo. So that adds so much. That adds a layer. It's weird to me that I think some people, they complain about the bleeps. Like I think some people feel like they're missing out on something. Like they're being like there's additional content that's being withheld because of the bleeps. But like, no, that's like an enhancement. Like that's like by design,
Father, what's your take on the human thing? Captain Kirk asserts that everybody's human, right? Like it doesn't matter if you're a Klingon or a Romulan, like everybody's human. I know he was just joking, but humans have feet, exocomps have feet. Hamper is a human. I think Hamper is a non-human person. That's how I like to classify
Yeah, we'll say that Peanut Hamper has personhood, but not human.
If you were friends with Peanut Hamper, would you call them Hamp? Just like Hamp?
I wouldn't be friends with Peanut Hamper.
Yeah,
I would call her a fucking asshole. Is what I would call her.
Same.
But you kind of see her kind of start to soften a little bit after.
This is why the betrayal is so good.
Yeah, after she meets Ralda, or Raldog, as Starfleet Boy likes to call him. But
he's my episode husband, by the way. I don't know if I forgot to post that. I'll do it tomorrow so that the UK people get to catch up.
Well, you don't really have like a ton of options in this episode.
No, there's a lot of, this whole society was pretty cool overall. I didn't see a lot of fear. Bird people. They had, did you see the ninja owls that came to
like the badass royal guards or whatever?
Royal guards, yeah. There's
those guys looked cool.
Yeah. There's
as always, Lower Decks does a great job on the backgrounds, like the not just like the backgrounds themselves, but like background characters. There's so
Right.
much thought and effort put into all of the
There's
art
also a lot of
design on this
diversity
show.
among all of them. Like, there's different types of what I would call like I'm just comparing them to earth owls, but there's like Midwestern looking owls. Like you could see that there's
Yeah,
different
they're not like
type.
cookie cutter. It's not
Yeah,
like
they're not cookie cutter.
it's
They're
not like
all
they just like
very
have like
like
the one model and then there's like, okay, just like draw like a bunch of this.
yeah.
Like they
There's
all
like
look
barn
like
owls. There's like
individuals.
burrowing owls. Like that kind of thing. There's like a lot of diversity and they all have different like plumage types and stuff like that. Radar was just like super hot.
I
Also, just
love
on the
the
guys.
voice performance for Rhoda, by the way, because he's like he kind of has like that teenager voice, like like the youthful part where he's like, "But Dad, I don't want to
he
show this machine around." Like I don't know. I like the way that they handled that, and
He sounded older to me. He sounded more like, well, I guess that character's a teenager, but like I guess to me he sounded like a guy in his like late teens or early 19s, like already like doing the work, like he's working in the hatchery, and he like goes around and he does princely things. I don't know if he's a prince. What was he? He's like a
he's
second chief.
next in line to be village leader is the
Village
term.
leader. Alright, so
That's
he's
the
like the second
terminology they
leader.
use.
Yeah, exactly. So as the second, he goes around doing a lot of like very, very good like
I like that. I
administrative
like that. Oh
things. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm meant to be the leader, but I'm gonna go like milk the flying
Right.
goats
Right,
and
right,
stuff
right.
like
Yeah.
that.
That was great. Yeah, he's very like involved in all the things that the village needs. That's what I love about this too, is like you really get a sense of the society. It does remind me a lot about the Baku. I love the Baku and the Baku
There's a
village and
one major
like
difference
yeah.
between them and the Baku though, is that like the Baku like went and found like their paradise planet and then gave up their technology. I think these people are still on their home planet because
Yeah,
they're
and it
on the
feels like
world where everything evolved with wings, right?
yeah, I guess so. Or wherever what looks like happened to me is like their species was like a spacefaring like amazing like a empire of some sort. And my
I never got any
speculation,
like imperialistic vibes from them.
like if you go and look at his wall, well, I guess when we get to the cave paintings, I could point out what I thought was suggesting all that stuff. But regardless, yeah, wherever they are, they left behind all that and they chose this. They worked to make this life happen. So it's like the Baku in that way, I guess, right? Because the Baku had warp and and
Right.
they were
I
like
just think that's like an important difference that like these people like decided to go back to where they came from instead
right.
of like the Baku. But uh I forgot that like exocomps, like their thing is that they have a replicator on the front of them
Hmm.
and they just like make whatever they need. So they actually explore that really interestingly here in this episode where Peanut Hamper is like making tennis balls, when she's bored,
Right.
just bouncing them off the walls, or like is able to like make candy for the children and gets really popular with the kids really fast. And then when Rada is kind of showing her around, showing her the ropes of what life is like in the village, we see her able to kind of apply that to stuff like milking the goats. But we see that like what they got: flying pigs, flying turtles, the snakes, the sky snakes. That was a funny line of dialogue. Like, why do you call it a sky snake? Wouldn't it just be a snake if everything flies? Like,
Look, there's a pig, flying pig, yay.
so no, we
Also,
have
also
seen
everything
when
has
pigs
beaks.
fly in Star
Everything has
Trek.
a beak, which is interesting too.
Yeah, everything has beaks and wings. What I guess even with the beak, the sky snake must still have like some teeth, right? If it's able to like bite into you and give you its venom.
Yeah, or look at it's the tip of its beak is like a different color, so maybe that part is venomous or something like that. Um, or
But
maybe that's where you like bit into the leader.
we see Peanut Hamper kind of reconnect with some of her Starfleet roots because she was in sickbay with Tindy
That's
back
right.
in no small parts. So she was a medical officer, and then when Rada's like, "Oh no, my dad's about to die," she's like, "Oh yeah, he just needs this anti-venom that I just replicated. Let me hypo spray him real quick. Oh, by the way, I noticed you were low on like every vitamin ever, so I gave you some supplements and uh yeah, so she's really popular. She becomes like the village doctor. Even though
Yeah,
that's kind of
totally.
gross, because we hear Doyle describe his now that the stomach worms have been cured, his fecal matter has gone back to being
Oily and
oily
white.
and white.
As he's wiping this clay on himself too, which is really
Yeah, well,
funny.
he's covered in something oily and
Oily
white.
and white. Like what is exactly is that? Like what are they making? But yeah, I love this hatchery scene. This was cool.
Oh yeah,
I
the
love
the
the
incubation hut.
yeah.
Yeah, I loved Rada being like, yeah, like life is so scary and painful, like all these hatchlings, like we have all these precious eggs, but many of them won't survive the hatching process. And Peanut Hamper is like, oh, look at my advanced technology. We'll have all the hatchlings survive.
It's interesting. I wonder if Owo grew up on a place in a place like this, because essentially these are like they're choosing to be Luddites. And I think Amos is in, so I'll speak a little bit. But Father, when you get back to being able to talk, uh,
Now my dog was I heard him getting into something he wasn't supposed to get into.
oh, okay. Is Antonia home? Hello, Antonia.
No, she came in and then left.
Oh, okay, got it.
But anyways, what were you saying?
Well, I was just saying that like it's interesting, like essentially they're Luddites, right? So it's interesting
Yeah.
that Peanut Hamper did bring up a really interesting question, which is like they once were spacefaring, and it's like they left everything behind and started from scratch, and decided for some reason the technology was bad, and that like
Yeah.
so
And it
so
seems
it's
kind of dumb. It's like, man, like, if you didn't give up your technology, like you wouldn't have to worry about like all your babies
right,
if they're gonna survive or not. Like
right.
like most societies, I think, would kind of value infant mortality. Like, you,
Yeah, or a little small boon, just enough, like a little boon to the civilization to help grow. Not too much to be resource heavy, but yeah, I agree. But I
but
mean, it did feel
they,
like an idyllic place at the same time. I would say that like, it was a happy seeming place. It wasn't like a place stricken with any kind of sorrow that I could see. Like everything seemed to be tended to also. I mean, look at it. It's like right here is a great example. This like nursery is so beautiful. Like it has like little trinkets and like nice grass. Like warming bulb things, mushrooms. I think they're mushrooms.
no one listening knows what you're talking about though. But
Oh, that's right.
it's
Sorry.
okay. I'll cut it out. I'll cut it out for the listeners.
Father, he doesn't like the descriptiveness, but I'm so compelled by the images. Like sometimes they're so beautiful. Quit showing beautiful screenshots, Father.
I gotta cater to the visual audience on YouTube, but also
Yep.
cater to the audio listeners later. Um, but you're right. Like it does seem kind of peaceful, and I guess a little bit like Paradise Syndrome type. I don't know if I'd say utopian, but it seems nice in its own way. And I actually think Peanut Hamper might have been tempted to try to fit in, try to stick it out. I wonder if she hadn't have seen like this other option of like, oh, I possibly have a route off world. How would she have continued to fit in here in the village? But yeah, I guess we should talk about like the Peanut Hamper romance, and then it kind of uh explores some of the secrets of these people. But
It was it,
after
it was hilarious.
after
The romance.
Verada and Peanut Hamper, they've started spending time together. I think it was like after the incubation hut when he sees
He
her
warms to her there.
with all
It's
those
very
babies. Yeah.
actually I wish Rachel was here because that's very much kind of like a Edwardian romance type of
Yeah,
thing
into some of
where
her like
yeah.
classic romance literature
like
territory.
a like a Darcy thing almost, but
But
twisted.
yeah, they're
Twisted
able
and
to they're able to
evil.
play it for humor really well. The when
Right.
he says, when I'm with you, my heart is just full of song, and then when she's like, sing for me, Rhoda, and then he's just caca, and she's like, oh my god, you scared the shit out of me. Why are you still doing this? Just stop.
I thought the
That was
song
great.
was
That
gonna
was
be
funny.
beautiful, by the way. This caught me off guard. I thought he was gonna be like, or there was gonna be, I thought there was gonna be like a musical number, like, Peanut Hamper, I'm in love with you
Oh,
type of thing.
that would have been weird. I'm glad they didn't. I love what we got.
No, Kaka is the
That was
best thing
perfect.
ever. Cacao was perfect. I agree.
But I think the episode, I think it might have lost some people with the love scene that happens
Yes,
after.
that's what I heard. I loved it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were complaining. I was surprised, and I'm sorry. I want to be respectful, but I was just, to me, it was just too funny.
No, it was hilarious. And I didn't I was like, oh my god, they're really gonna do like a romance between these characters. Like, okay. And then like right after, like my brain has kind of wrapped itself around that concept. It's like, oh, they're actually gonna show them getting after it. So that just made me crack up so much. Just the audacity, the just the sheer the sheer fucking hubris of wanting to do this in Star Trek.
I love that.
But the dialogue the whole time, the whole like long have I longed for the touch of your nozzle. And when she's like when he's like, our parts are different, and she's like, yours are complicated,
Right, because he would have a cloaca, which
I don't know what that is, but yeah, I
it's
knew
like kind of
birds are
this
weird. So
yeah.
but when she
I
says
just don't know how to
we're
even
just gonna have
describe
to
it.
wing it, that
Right.
made me crack up. I laughed out loud at that so hard. And they do kind of have like a heart-to-heart moment. He talks about like, he's under a lot of pressure, expected to measure up to his dad, and he has to come here to like be alone. And she talks about like her daddy issues, with with
That's true. That's true.
how he had like these high hopes for her. She just wanted to like run off to Free Cloud and be a Dabo girl.
Do you believe this part? Because Peanut Hamper's like a duplicitous kind of lying type of character, but I believed, I don't know. I want to believe that this was like the real Peanut Hamper just for a minute, like coming through.
No, that's a great thing to bring up. I think that there was probably a combination of like, I think some of these feelings probably were sincere, but also she's like, okay, this guy's next in line to take over. He'd, be a pretty good catch. I think she's always gonna have like that selfish nature, but I think
Like
here,
an
like
opportunistic, right? A
well, I
calculating.
mean, like we know that she's
nature. Yeah,
lonely,
it's
right? She
interesting.
built a
Right.
little miniature Sophia. Like we know that she wants companionship.
Right.
She didn't like being stranded alone. Her whole struggle here is like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to fit in with these people. I need to get back to like normal society. And so I think part of her, what would have been willing, kind of settle. We don't see exactly like where that line is drawn, and I think that's also a fun thing because we can kind of speculate. Okay, like at what point does she actually, go full in on the betrayal? I think it is shortly after. That's after the first lovemaking scene. It's not too long after that we get the shot of what you were talking about, the cave drawings,
Right,
kind of
right
their
here.
secret chamber.
Look, it's like there's a lot of planets and a lot of like ships and a lot of explosions, like depicting lots of battles, and he even describes that, I think.
Yeah, they were in conflict with other spacefaring people.
Right.
And that's why they gave it up, was because they were at wars with people.
I'm gonna be excited to learn more about these guys, because it's cool.
Really?
Lower Decks could play with that era of the Iconians and the Takan Empire and stuff like that in interesting ways, where we see like the excavations of those things. Like I like seeing it this way. The past is always cool when it's like shown from this like archaeological standpoint. Like this is a TNG thing, like going after the DNA clues, across planets and stuff like that. So I like this. It could be the
You're
start
talking
of
about the chase.
The chase, yeah. This could be like the start to like a chase. It could go nowhere. Also, they stand alone as a perfect episode. But I love these guys. I want more of the Aurorans. Ouroboros. 12 monkeys.
Arior, right?
Arior, thank you. I want to see more about.
Is that even? You're making me like doubt it every time I say it now.
Also, it'd be neat if now that like Rada is taking over, like as he gets more into it, and he obviously showed them that they shouldn't fear technology, like it can be used to fend off attacks and stuff like that. They can still maintain their life. And again, from my observation, they're very Federation like already. They'd fit right in. They already have a very like what is the word for like a very the type of society that's very like utopian, and there's not really like whatever the Federation is, that type of society, they're already kind of like that in a mini scale. So I think they can scale up
They're
to that
nice
pretty
and
easily.
peaceful and undemocratic. They just
Right.
make like
They no one
the village
questioned.
leader's son the next
Yeah,
leader.
I noticed like the wedding was well attended. Like for example, like they were very accepting. Like if there was a little bit of friction about Peanut Hamper, but like overall, like they really kind of welcomed Peanut Hamper, especially once Peanut Hamper like became like the doctor and started healing people and had like a value to the society.
She
Like
even
they
kind of makes
really,
fun of them for that. Like y'all
right?
thought
She
I was
does.
like the weird space box. Everyone was scared of me, but like now you all remember my name. Now you all know I'm called Peanut
She
Hamper.
does. She
So,
does. She's
we give
terrible.
Peanut Hamper a
She's like,
hard time. Like, yeah, like
right.
we give her a lot of shit for being such a terrible person. But I mean, there are times and like, okay, like she is kind of a victim in some aspects.
Right. That's
But
true.
I don't know if we need the area or like backstory explored again. When I watched this, I just assumed that okay, this is probably the only time we'll ever see them. They're just like a Planet of the Week type alien species, like that Star Trek does frequently. But I suppose that they have that option. If Lower Decks has shown us anything, it's that like it's never too late to like go back and as obscure or esoteric some deep cut might be. It's always possible for some future installment of Star Trek to bring it back or shine a light on it again. By the way, we get like another lovemaking scene after they get like the cave
I like what he says
backstory
too, because
explained, and
she can't stop thinking about her betrayal to Starfleet, and I like what he says. He says, "Well, then I'll have to make you forget."
then like every time that they're having sex, it cuts to like the flying turtles flying around,
These
which
are
like
turtle
turtle
doves.
dove is like
Yes,
it's like
like a love
represents
thing.
love,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, the winged turtles must be like turtle doves. So that's kind of
It's
the joke
brilliant,
there.
and they're even sea turtle doves, which is even more exciting.
And some people couldn't get over the Magatos and Magato Gamato that were uh having some fun time outside of the log that poor Boimler and Rutherford were stuck in.
Yeah,
but
this didn't
you,
cross those lines.
but I like that too. And I think the show like it doesn't go into like that territory too often. Like when it does it like this, it feels kind of like out of place and shocking, but in like a good way that I think
I was
adds
shocked,
to the
I'll
comedy.
admit that, but it was in a funny way. Yeah, it made me laugh. It
Yeah,
felt like
I was laughing. I was like, "Oh my god, the like we're just gonna have to wing it." Like that line killed me. And then immediately after that, it kind of like plays it, serious with like the wings forming the shape of a heart, and then you have like a little bit of like the pillow talk after where they're just laying on the field talking to each other and just yeah, I don't know. That cracked me up. I'm sorry if it's too I guess crude or vulgar for some people, but I think it was tasteful in its way.
I thought so too. I thought so too.
But yeah, I guess we should talk about the wedding and then the wedding being crashed by the Drukmani scavengers. But we get like that cool montage to show us that some
Oh, it's
time
like a time lapse,
has
right? Like
passed.
it,
Yeah.
it actually looked like a
So
time lapse. It was cool. Yeah, it was very
yeah, we
nice.
know it
The
goes from like winter to spring. So we don't know exactly
Right.
how long Peanut Hamper was here, or how long she was, stuck in space. Eventually, we get caught back up to the normal timeline where the rest of the show has been. But
Now
yeah,
Peanut Hamper's gone back to like exocomp prototype colors, which is
yeah,
interesting
she has like
too.
a bronze color, like it
Yeah,
kind of like matches like a lot of like the earth tones, like the
right.
woods and stuff
But also, weren't they like that
of the
on
village.
TNG? Weren't the exocomps on TNG like that also? I feel.
No, they think they were
Oh.
like black and gray.
Oh, okay, okay. But more metallic. Before
Yeah,
she
they
was
were more
painted in like a
metallic. She almost has
Starfleet
kind of like a wood type
wood
look.
yeah. But before she was wearing like a Starfleet uniform. That was
She
like
was
her,
painted
yeah,
blue to
painted
be a
blue.
medical
Yeah,
officer
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
with
that's
a
right.
little Starfleet Delta that she brings
Right.
back in this
Right.
episode. But she also has like a wedding veil and like a
And a beak
bird
now.
beak, which yeah, she like replicated a beak, I guess, to blend in. Of course,
That's
the wedding
delightful.
is crashed by the Drukmani scavengers, and I totally didn't see the twist coming. So when Peanut Hamburger says they must have tracked my signal to here, and that's why they're here, I was like, okay, that makes sense. they beam, or no, they don't beam down. They come down in a shuttlecraft, which I think is weird. But then Peanut Hamper uses the shuttlecraft to do kind of her kamikaze run on their ship in a moment. So maybe like in her message to them, maybe she said like you should come down in a shuttle first, because she was thinking, okay, if I do all of this just right, I will show everyone, look, I'm a big badass hero. Starfleet will forgive me. I'll be able to get off this world. That's her plan. But yeah, I totally, I thought, what Rada and the rest of the villagers must have been thinking when the Drukmani start ripping up the trees and pulling the ships up from under the ground. And Peanut Hamper is like, oh no, like I need to help protect all of you. This is my fault. Let me do something about it. I totally bought into all of that.
Right, me too. It was awesome, and it's an awesome sequence too. The whole thing like felt really tense, but in a good way, like in a fun way almost. Seeing a ship battle is always fun.
She has that hero moment when she's talking about the goods of the many and the goods of the few, and
That's right.
Rada's like, you're not even a few, you're just one, and she's like, no, I'm Starfleet, and she replicates a little Delta badge back on herself, and I was like, okay, look, they're gonna do Peanut Hamper Redemption, and I think the title of the episode is such
It's
a good
all a
title
show. It's all a show.
a mathematically perfect redemption. It's
It's
like,
true.
yeah, like she calculated like this would be like an ideal redemption for me. It's like how a computer brain would look at it. She's like, I'll send out a distress call to Cerritos, get them to come there. I'll pilot the shuttle. It's like, this is what they expected me to have done way back
Is
in
this why?
season 1.
Do you think
I'll
Vulcans
do
are
it
like
now.
this too? Do you think a Vulcan would easily have kind of done what Peanut Hamper did? They seem to be on Enterprise. They're very logical, like to an extreme almost. And they
On
were
Enterprise, they're
infiltrated by
very like
extremists.
assholes.
Yeah,
The Enterprise Vulcans, to the point where they in season 4 they had to do like a whole episode to like fix the or a 3-episode arc to fix the Vulcans, but they did it. Manny Koto did it. He pulled it off.
that's true.
Fixed Enterprise. Shame he didn't get opportunity to do more than season 4, but
I liked exploring the Vulcans when they were in a turmoil, but we're not talking about that. But regardless, I guess what I was saying is like I felt like that's how I feel like sometimes Vulcans make decisions. They'll like say like, oh no, like this many people will die, or this many. We just have to do this. Whereas Captain Kirk or like a human or like someone with more like
well, yeah,
empathy, perhaps.
the goods
Yeah,
of the many outweigh the or the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Like that. I mean, that was literally from Spock. So
right. Right, but Spock learned that sometimes the good of the one. So that's what Peanut Hamper has to learn, is when to balance it. Like when is it time to be, selfish and when is it time to be selfless? But Peanut Hamper has no idea. Peanut Hamper's just selfish, like period.
And I love the larger, I guess, moral here of, I think like the heart and meaning of the episode is that redemption is possible. Like people can be redeemed, people can make up for their wrongdoings, but it's still up to them to actually earn that. And so I think most of us, we'll always like get the opportunity for redemption, but it's still up to us to make that happen. And
right.
Peanut Hamper clearly had the opportunity here. She had such a good job, setting this up. Like she could have just actually have gone through with it. But no, like she had to betray us in the end. I did like when she does finally contact the Cerritos, and it's like, oh wow, it's actually like the show that I'm used to watching every week.
It's so good.
And then here's where I didn't know like these words are going to be like hard for people to pronounce, but this is when Boimler is having a hard time with Areolus.
Hey, take a look at this interesting thing going on here. Other than Rutherford, everyone else is on the bridge right now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually bugged me. I was like, why is Rutherford and Tindy on the bridge? I could kind of understand.
I do see. Like, sorry, I didn't see Rutherford is there, and I could understand Tindy. She's a science officer now. She's she's up there.
It just seemed weird that like all 4 of them would be on the bridge at the same time.
I love it. It's a hero shot. Every episode's given us this kind of like heroic shot, and I love it. This is a frameable as far as I'm concerned.
But in fact, no one listening knows what the hell you're talking about.
I know. Sorry, I keep doing that. Fathery will remind me. Sorry, audience. YouTube audience, please tell him it's okay. Anyways, what we're seeing here, audience who's listening at home, on their radio, I hope, which is kind of cool, is
On a subspace radio, I
on a
hope.
subspace radio, yeah, is an image of like just kind of everyone who's had like a highlight this season on the bridge, and it's just a cool looking image. But it's true. What would lead them all to be there? That's the question. There's a whole adventure that's been going
That
on that we are
we
unaware
haven't
of.
seen them the entire
Yep.
episode, so they're like, let's just put
Yep.
everyone in one shot at the very beginning.
That's
But
pretty cool too, that there's an episode that was going on right before Peanut Hamper contacted them, and that was where they were at in that episode. And just in my head canon. Maybe it was last week's episode. It's right after they left.
it's interesting to me that they have Mr. McLemo on the bridge when we first see the Cerritos and see the people on the bridge when they get the message from Peanut Hamper. I was like, oh, they're gonna have him, be part of the landing party or something. He's gonna talk to these fellow bird people at some point, but he never does. So that was a little weird that didn't happen.
Oh, Fathery, what could be going on is like Miglimo could have been conducting like an ensign training of some kind, like a bridge training, and that's why, like, because he's already like mentoring Tendi. Maybe he's
mentoring all of them.
Yeah, maybe he's mentoring all of them. Like maybe that's how they like.
Occasionally do see Boimler at the helm and Mariner at ops like that.
Right,
that has happened before. It's just kind of odd to see Tendi and Rutherford standing back there for whatever reason. I get it, like Tendi might be up there doing science officer stuff, but not sure about Rutherford.
You know more about naval tradition, but sometimes like when you serve on a ship, like when the captain gets promoted, like sometimes the people who are like the bridge ensigns get promoted to like the bridge lieutenants, and like so everyone kind of stays on the
bridge lieutenants.
Yeah, or like whatever. Like like everyone just keeps getting promoted until someone else is the captain. So I feel like, do you think Mariner would be a good captain to succeed Captain Freeman if she gets a sovereign class, let's say, or something like that?
I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be Ransom. I don't know why it would be an ensign instead of the first officer who gets promoted.
What if Ransom wants to go to the Sovereign? Like, what if that's the move he wants to make? Like, he could be a Riker to the Freeman. Like he could be like that. I would want to follow. Personally, I don't want to captain a ship. I would love to be the first officer. They get to be the best friend of everyone on the ship. It's like the best job to be.
But isn't the first officer also supposed to like punish the crew whenever like you got to dish out some discipline?
Yeah, but you can always blame the captain. You never take the heat.
Okay.
Like sorry, I know this is rough, but the captain has given me no choice. But you know what? I'm going to wash the dishes with you. That's what a good first officer does. And Riker totally would do that. And Ransom might not, but he'd be more like going to go see True Olivia or something like that. His friend.
True Olivia. I've completely lost track of what we were talking about in the episode.
Fathery, have I derailed your discussion? No. Well, we're just on the Peanut Hamper saves the day sequence, Fathery.
Oh, when she does go into the Drukmani ship and overload their engines, I love that the J.G. Hertzler Drukmani, the Drukmani captain, he turns around all confused. He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I need him to get an F-bomb in every episode. I assume he's going to show up again someday. I hope he does. It's kind of ambiguous if he survives the end of this one or not, but I think it'd be very easy to bring him back, because in the episode he was in previously, he tells Freeman, and he says like "fuck you" when she's trying to like calm him down. and I remember laughing at that 2 years ago. So I need him to just have F-bombs every episode. But yeah, we think that Peanut Hamper's saved the day. The Cerritos crew beams down. They have like this whole conversation of like, we're not going to let you take Peanut Hamper to a penal colony, and they explain what all just transpired, and Freeman's like, oh yeah, I don't know what we're gonna say in our report, but we might be able to write something up, and I think that we can forgive you and all of that. So it looks like we're gonna have like this happy ending and get Peanut Hamper back on the ship, and maybe with maybe Rada will join her on the Cerritos. They have a brief conversation about like, oh, could she bring her husband along? And Peanut Hamper's like, oh, Rada, I could never ask you to leave this paradise, but he's like, oh, anywhere with you would be a paradise. We quickly see that she's probably just trying to get him to stay because she doesn't actually want to drag him along with her. But
right.
The truth comes out. I guess we should like get into like the ending and the actual truth of what's going on. But the Drukmani turns out these
wow
these ships are still functional. The Drukmani take over one of the ancient ships, and it has powerful weapons that are just blowing up the village huts that are attacking the Cerritos. The Drukmani, the thing about them is like when you piss them off, it's very hard to like talk them down, get them to calm down. They explain like, oh yeah, we got like this transmission from what was it, peanut butter, he can't remember the name at first, some prissy little robot, but of course they recorded it, so the truth comes out. Peanut Hamper had summoned the Drukmani to come, said like, oh yeah, you can come beam up these old ships, get the parts, and don't worry about the local population, they're all going to be a bunch of pushovers. So this is the part that where they turn the knife, where we see her make Rada cry when she's just like, yeah, like there's no way I would spend my very long robotic life on a freaking bird planet. And it's just like she is just so mean and so terrible and such an asshole. I'm just like, oh my god, I hate you so much. I felt the betrayal, and that's why I love this episode so much. It was like so incredibly effective. And I know I've seen some people say like, I didn't like that. I wanted it to be like the happy ending of her actually being redeemed. But the episode's designed to make you want that, and then like it is intentionally disappointing you here so that you get like the same gut punch that these characters experience. Like
so good.
Tindy's little heart is broken too because she was like rooting for Peanut Hamper to redeem herself, and I like seeing that. I love Tindy's excitement, but then here,
there's like no growth at all. Peanut Hamper has like no growth from like all of it was like a farce. It was just like a big lie. It was great.
and so I think part of the risk of this episode initially, when I'm watching that, I was like, okay, so they're kind of doing the cliche, the dances with wolves, the Avatar, the what people call the white savior trope, where your main character, someone who's like from civilization, goes and finds like these friendly but primitive people, but then like kind of starts to learn their ways, and they actually become like the hero of all of them. But it's like, it's weird. It's like, okay, why do you always have like this white European dude who has to be the leader and the hero of the primitive people? It seems a little weird at times, and I think it's a largely dated trope that's and the Paradise Syndrome, the episode from the original series where Captain Kirk got bonked on the head and thought he was a Native American. This episode definitely is leaning into the Paradise Syndrome and borrowing a lot from there, but that's obviously kind of an exploration into that territory that becomes like that white savior trope. But what I think was really good about this episode of how they avoided that is actually by having Peanut Hamper not be the hero and subverting that entire trope, and then having Ralda rise to the occasion and actually be the hero by embracing his people's past and not living in fear of technology. You just said, yeah, Peanut Hamper, zero arc between she was an asshole in season 1, she's an asshole here, but Ralda, he learns.
He starts out as like a mistrusting of Peanut Hamper, and like you would almost call him like I don't know, what would you call it? Like he had like racist tendencies.
Well, yeah, he just he kind of leaned in like the dogmatic beliefs he had been raised on, even though his father is kind of open-minded and seems to be a bit more progressive, but
totally spot on. I agree. That's a great point.
And I liked his it's cheesy, but it's still kind of fun. But when he's powering up the ship and he's like, for the flock, and like, I don't know, I love that, like, they gave him like this big hero stupid dialogue to say.
Also, maybe this episode kind of like has kind of improved that trope in a way, because Peanut Hamper is not really like the white savior. Peanut Hamper's
Right,
just a
right, right.
like
They
Peanut
subvert it.
yeah. But also, even still, like all Peanut Hamper actually does help the society in a way, but that's because Peanut Hamper is a personification of technology. Like Peanut Hamper is like a sentient robot that can do anything with its replicator. It's pretty cool. Like I guess it's the technical savior now, is what you could call it. The techno savior
But
is the new
she's
thing.
not a savior at all. And
Right.
I
She
mean
ends up
more as
not
like
being right.
more as a
Exactly.
character who's like coded as white,
We
not
this
like literally
episode
a Caucasian
this episode
person, but
elevates the trope, because the lesson is that you are your own savior. The people save themselves by
well,
making the right decisions, being an open society, like being a society that like didn't, wasn't afraid, that had a
I
very
think it's kind of a
strong like
commentary on
yeah.
colonialism because she
Yeah.
shows up. She's like, "Oh, you dumb backwater primitive people! I'm advanced. I'm civilized. I'm just going to use you. I'm going to exploit you," which is kind of a real world, real history. Tell as old as time of how colonialism exploits other people. Even when a lot of times they actually come from pretty rich parts of the world and actually have like a lot to offer. And here when Rada, by like embracing his people's past and who they are, he's able to be the hero of the day. So I thought that was kind of cool the way that they
That
handled
is
that.
pretty cool.
I should point out that our friend Giraffe over at the Strange New podcast, she had some issues with how this episode depicted quote unquote primitive people or primitives, and took issue with Star Trek continuing to categorize, I guess, people that way. So I definitely respect that stance on it, but for me, I think it's largely aware of that stuff, and I think it actually has like a kind of relevant social commentary, or at least that was my read on it.
What is I'll have to go read the I'll have to go and read and see, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I think though that Lower Decks does a great job of kind of like taking these it's almost, I just, having seen the work they've done over the course of the, last, two and now and a half seasons, uh I feel like these writers are definitely making commentaries, and like, it's a very hip show. I don't know how else to describe it. There's a lot of like interesting tropes and homages, and it goes beyond Star Trek. I think a lot of Solar Opposites fans were really happy with this episode because it felt like an episode of Solar
Oh,
Opposites.
really?
I don't,
I've
yeah, I don't watch
I've
that,
never
but
watched
yeah,
Solar Opposites, but I
right.
heard some people say this felt similar to Rick and Morty. I think because maybe that show's like a bit more crude with
Mm,
like that seems like a show where you're more likely to see like a bird alien make love to a
right.
robot. um, but no, I mean I liked all that stuff here, and I can understand why some people might have been frustrated, but I think this is the best of the season. Yes, I liked last week's episode more. I liked going to Deep Space Nine more, but this season has been so incredibly impressive, and this episode impressed me the most out of everything else that they've done this year.
Yeah, Lower Decks is awesome this season. So far, I've like, I'm just really enjoying it, every aspect of it. I kind of enjoy the show as a whole that way, but yeah, this season's really exciting.
And then
Look
what
at
do you
this.
think of the tag scene at the end where we when Peanut Hamper fails to summon the Borg to assimilate everyone, she's taken to the Daystrom Institute and locked up. Which every time they kept talking about like sending her to a penal colony, I was like, I wonder if they would like lock her up in the Daystrom Institute next to Agamus. It's exactly what the hell happens at the end of the episode. So
This is awesome. It's setting up something really cool, I hope, that might, pay off in like a, I don't know if it's gonna be this season. Do you think this is gonna like lead into something cool with them teaming up happening this season, or do you think this will be like next season type stuff?
I would be shocked if we see Peanut Hamper and
Can
Agamus
Hamper
again in
again?
season
Okay, that's
3.
fine.
I
Yeah,
think
that's totally
they'll
fine with
save them for season
me.
4. I mean, this was a lot of Peanut Hamper. too much for some people. So I think we're probably good on them until next year, until season 4. I think it'd be great if like they went and teamed up with Badgie, and we had the
Yeah.
three of them. The three of them together would just be bad news,
Now, Father, if you have a minute, canonically, like, if there is like a revolt of these like sentient, what does it say there? What is it like? Self-aware megalomaniacal computer storage. Okay, so these self-aware
Now it's Earth words we're forgetting how to say.
it's true. Megalomaniac computers here, if they do some kind of revolt, that makes it like interesting to me, because it would tie into like the distrust that like biologicals would have for synthetic beings. This is interesting. I don't know, but I just noticed there's I know we're not supposed to talk about the pictures, but one of the robots in this picture that Father has up has a CVS logo. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, and we saw them before in season 2. But yeah, so that was our story. That was our peanut hamper. With the was it kind of like flirty between her and Agamus when Agamus like he caught on to peanut hamper, like, oh, that's a mathematically perfect name.
Yeah,
Then
I
they kind
think
of
it
start like
was
laughing evilly together. So
100%.
maybe that's yeah, maybe they'll fall in a evil robot love, and
They're gonna totally do weird things together.
until they turn on each other. That's how the heroes will defeat them. Is they'll
They
get them
have to
to turn on
interface,
each other.
which means all of Peanut Hamper's like maniacal plans will merge with Agamis's maniacal plans. Imagine like I hope those are well shielded like compartments, because if any one of them could get a little, oh my gosh, Peanut Hamper could replicate some kind of like device. Oh, it's awful what's gonna happen. There's so many possibilities. I don't want to even think about it.
I'm sure in season 4 something will happen with them.
Something could happen. It's true.
We should also point out that, if we zoom out a little bit and look at the larger Star Trek timeline beyond just Lower Decks, we are a few years before the burning of Mars and Star Trek Picard. That
Right.
happens in what? That's 2385 or 86.
Right.
So this is in 81 still. So 5 years away from the synth ban getting applied. I can kind of see why there might be some mistrust of artificial intelligence within the Federation. Things like Agamus and Peanut Hamper kind of contribute to that. So the Tal Shiar infiltration of Starfleet pushing for a ban on synthetic life. This might be some examples that they bring up to push their agenda.
It would be interesting to see a series of short Lower Decks that like explore like a someone said this, I forget it, I think it was on the Twitter space I hosted, or I forget where I saw it, but like a Suicide Squad of kind of version with these like AIs, and so like the Federation
They're gonna come work for Starfleet.
Right, for Starfleet, the Federation used them to like do complicated things that need like computational intelligence of this caliber, uh like so, but they can blow them up at any moment. And maybe some of them do get blown up. It'd be fun.
Well, some people wanted to put like a kill switch on Zora on Star Trek Discovery. So,
oh, that's right.
But yeah, you have any other final thoughts on the episode?
No, talking about it with you made me realize how deeply I love this episode. It's a really good darn episode. I've seen it 3 times now, and I've enjoyed it every single time, and I've just like tuned into other nuances. Like I feel like the everyone who creates a show put a lot of work into it, because appreciate the humor or not, I thought everything was fleshed out beautifully. Like, and it's always cool in Star Trek to be introduced to new species in like this really, really from a different perspective. Like I always enjoy it, like when Data like whatever, when Data was stranded and like making the villagers sick. So I like seeing that civilization through that lens, like of the wayward Starfleet officer, which is what this was. Freeman even says my wayward ensign, like, so I really enjoyed that it was uh tying into the thing that, what I considered Lower Decks to be a love letter to is that TNG era, and it felt very at home there, and I liked these like one-off things. So yeah, maybe the humor wasn't for everyone, but if you can get past it, I think it's actually a pretty delightful episode.
Yeah, and I would disagree and say that I think Lower Decks kind of focuses more than just the Next Generation or that area, but kind of borrows a lot
Yeah,
from
like, no,
all
there's
of
a
Star Trek, and
that's
and and
true,
to me
and
this
there's a
this was
lot
more
thrown around
Paradise
for
Syndrome than
yeah, I guess so.
anything
That's
else. So I,
true.
I think I think it definitely has like some roots with the original series. But yeah, there's I think every show at some point they show someone kind of stuck on a
To me, because
primitive
of the
society
setting,
planet.
I guess the setting just is a huge chunk of that for me, and so it's very near the TNG. It's just right there. It's just like a few years after, I guess Voyager ended. So I like that. That's to me, that's it lives in that era, and it reminds me of a lot of TN. There's just as much as it harkens to TOS. It also, I feel like, equally harkens to TNG. I love it. I'm trying to compromise. That's that Starfleet game. Uh,
Oh, diplomats.
Diplomats.
I just don't like calling the 24th century the TNG era.
Oh, okay, okay. What should we call it? The
The
DS9
24th
era?
century.
Fine, the 24th century.
But
So is the 23rd century not allowed to be called the TOS era anymore because disco takes place there, and
in
so
Strange
does
New
in
Worlds and the
Strange New
animated
Worlds?
series, yeah, we should
Yeah.
just call it the 23rd century.
Oh, you're so boring, Fathery. Boring, blue,
I
boring.
think that's more accurate.
Fine, I'll comply. After all, this is your starship.
But that's I guess everything on the episode. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go into our gore and egg section of the show where we talk about all of the Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections I found that I thought were worth sharing. Starting off, we get that previously on recap, which was I think inspired by the way that they would recap in I guess specifically TNG, DS9, and Voyager, where it was always the computer doing it. On Enterprise, because their computer didn't speak, they would have Archer or T'Pol or someone,
Right.
say previously on Star Trek Enterprise. But I think they actually, what didn't they say last time? Wouldn't it be Majel saying last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine? But
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely kind of like that same style with the blue TNG font that Lower Decks also uses. Of course, the Drukmani coming back for the first time since Terminal Provocations,
They're
and
awesome.
JG Hertzler returning to voice the Drukmani captain. When Peanut Hamper is talking about her dad, who she mentioned in no small parts, she said she only joined Starfleet to make her dad mad.
Right.
But when she's talking about her family to Rhoda, she says that she wanted to go be a Dabo girl on Free Cloud. Free Cloud was introduced in Star Trek Picard season 1 and Stardust City Rag. And this is a good one, and I see that we have a Geek Filter Aaron Harvey in the audience, so I'm sure he appreciated this as the man who literally wrote the book on Star Trek the animated series. But when Peanut Hamper shows her true colors and tells Rhoda that she actually had no interest on remaining on this planet as soon as she discovered there is options to get off world, and she said that his people were like the poor man's Aurelians. So the Aurelians were the bird species introduced in the animated series. Way back in the episode Yesteryear, we see an Aurelian
Absolutely.
historian. And the Aurelians have shown up on Lower Decks, but to me they look more like the other bird species from the animated series, the score that we saw in the episode, the or Jihad. I think it's Jihad. There's no the there, But as Aaron has pointed out online, the Aurelians have what he called the groin plumage that the score do not have. And the Aurelians are also, kind of skinnier and scrawnier, whereas the
score a little bit more
score
buff.
they're thicker. And if you look at how these two bird aliens look and compare them to the ones that we've seen in Lower Decks,
Oh yeah,
specifically in
totally.
Envoys or an Embarrassment of Dupplers, but the people making the show say that they're Aurelians, but they look a lot more like the score to me. So, and Aaron has been pointing that out ever since season 1 of Lower Decks. I think Envoys was the first time that they were shown.
Well, can you remind me what this new avian species is called, Fathery? How to correctly say it?
Oh, I keep forgetting because I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, but the Arior, right?
Thank you. The Arior are my favorite Trek avians. I just want to put that on record. I love them. I love the owl-based design that they came up with. It's awesome.
Aaron is saying in our live chat, if you go to the Memory Alpha page, you can follow Brad in my conversation about that. I love his idea that the Aurelian and score come together again. Yeah, Aaron, remind us, Brad, that was someone who works on Lower Decks, right? But
that would be probably Brad Winters. He's a producer.
Okay, Brad Winters, perhaps. But yeah, I think the idea that they've come up with is that it was like a Vulcan and Romulan reunification that happened with the Aurelian and the score. So and I love that too, and I think that's great headcanon that we should all adopt. And Mike and company, if y'all are out there, make that canonical in the show. Joel in our live audience is also pointing out, I was wondering if they were Xindi avian offshoots. And yeah, since the Xindi avians from Star Trek Enterprise, they all went extinct, there could have been some that showed up somewhere else. And Aaron confirms that is Brad Winters that he was referring to.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that's it for the gourd eggs. But
that was the light hatch. Ha! Sorry.
Yeah, this not all of our hatchlings survived.
For this episode, can we call them areola eggs?
No.
I mean, sorry, what is it? Error?
I just give up. I don't know how to say any of these things anymore.
Owlians?
It's raw dog and clitoris and areolas and
oh goodness.
They were given on these names on purpose.
They're just right next to those words. They're just right. The actual names are just right next to those words that Father said, but it's not that.
But a very, very divisive episode. I loved it more than I'm sure 99% of the people who watched it. I was just blown away by this. The Lower Decks, leaning into that Lower Decks concept. Starfleet boy, I knew you were gonna love it because you're easy.
Oh wow!
Let's be honest.
Dang.
No, you just love you love Star Trek so much that they're
well, not to get cheesy, but there's so much Star Trek to love. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you.
It's a compulsion of mine, but I'd rather be compulsed by this than anything else.
I'd be curious to hear, what other people think about it, though. If people want to comment or respond to my tweets or sound off on the Tex-Trek Facebook page or join the Tex-Trek Discord server and talk to us about it there. I do have some subspace transmissions I received last week about our Deep Space Nine episode, Hear All, Trust Nothing. I'm going to share some of these. Our friend Earl Grey Trekkie said, absolutely the best ep of the season. Could that be nostalgia? I don't care. The station was rendered beautifully and the voice performances were great. It was fun seeing Quark being Quark and great hearing Nana. Joanne Robertson said on last week's episode, it was really beautifully animated and really captured the look and feel of DS9. I also thought that the plot was very DS9. I am now watching DS9 episodes today while I recuperate. So yeah, you can't have too much DS9.
I hope you're feeling better. I saw Joanne in our audience today, I think.
Dan said, my favorite part was the ongoing bit between Shax and Kira. So much fun. Jay said, I was extremely excited for this week's episode. DS9 is my favorite Trek. And that cold open, the DS9 glamour shots with the theme was everything I wanted from this episode. And the interiors looked great as well. Here's hoping we see more of her. Yes, I am an advocate for more DS9 and modern Star Trek. Unplanned Trek said, I loved it. The theme music, the circling of the station, all of it. Rob1970 said, anything DS9 related, I am up for. So you see this? Paramount Plus people really love DS9. We would love to see more DS9. And you know, we have 5 Star Trek shows. Let's go there on all of them. Hell, let's see if DS9 still exists in the 32nd century. Let's do it on Discuss. I guess Strange New Worlds would have a hard time getting there, but
can we get a like even just like a little bit of a project going for remastering it? I don't know, something like a committee. Can you tell us about a committee?
You know,
Start a committee.
People seem like really bent out of shape over that. But my whole thing is like, well, if y'all had bought the next generation Blu-rays,
Father, I buy all the Blu-rays now, everything.
I know
because of you, and I have to carry it with me everywhere now. Everywhere I go, the Blu-rays have to go with me.
I was watching some DS9 earlier today, and I think the show looks great in standard definition. That's not
someone was telling me that Paramount Plus does upscale it to some degree, so I have to rewatch it. I haven't watched it in a while. I know that those things just get like updated across the board, so I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while on a TV. But my TV does some of that
it's still standard def. I'm watching it on a 4K TV. It's still standard definition.
Yeah.
But you know, I brought this up a couple years ago, and I was like, okay, this will shut up everyone on the internet. But then everyone just totally dismissed me and ignored me. But
oh wow,
Mike Okuda at Star Trek Las Vegas was asked about when was this? This is maybe 2019. But yeah, I saw Mike Okuda on a panel get asked about, you know, remastering Deep Space Nine. And he said, you know, there's a lot of people at Paramount that, you know, he talks to that are very interested in that. It's just like, it would just be so expensive to do it. They wouldn't be able to do it the same way that they did the Next Generation, because that was, you know, a painstakingly expensive process. They didn't make their money back on the Next Generation Blu-rays. I think the artificial intelligence software will eventually get us to the point where it would be affordable for them to do it. You know, we just saw Warner Brothers remaster Babylon 5 for HBO Max using some AI software, some of the effect shots, and then they just used the footage on the shots that didn't have any effects. They just went to the original film for that. That remaster was not great, you know, good show, but like I would expect a higher level of quality for Star Trek. So I don't think that we're there yet, but I think, yeah, eventually that'll just naturally happen. So for me, like I don't think that's like a high priority to, and I'm like, you know, the biggest Deep Space Nine fan ever. I would love to watch the entire show in HD, but I understand that Paramount will never just do that out of the kindness of their hearts. They're only going to do that if it's like affordable and profitable, because that's how these giant corporations work. They just care about making money. They don't care about preserving Star Trek or making sure that, you know, it's in like the most enjoyable format. They're trying to figure out like, you know, how can we use this to make money for our shareholders? So with that in mind, I expect it will just happen whenever the AI software becomes cheap and easy enough that they decide to do it.
I say to you, Father, that to quote Kate Mulgrew, if enough people drum up some attention about it, it may happen. But I would say that, like, unfortunately, they have opened Pandora's box, because they were able to successfully remaster footage for the documentary What We Left Behind. And it's so beautiful. It looks so wonderful. So it's like you're kind of spoiled now.
The reason why they did
if it doesn't look like that, you know, that was like kind of like a test launch, and it was gorgeous. Like, I can't wait to
But that's not a test launch, because that wasn't
the pilot
like the
for the remaster.
That wasn't the like all the CGI shots with the ships.
No, I'm talking about just like to me, that stuff is great. I don't mind. Like, I want that to be more true, of course, to the actual work that the people put in to doing the effects, the original creators. But to me, like, seeing like the actual show remastered, and I understand that like they filmed it, so there's actually more to it, so they were able to expand it for 16:9 somehow. It's great.
Well, the show is actually shot
right
in like one of the DPs, because they changed the director of photography at season 3, if I'm remembering correctly. But one of them said that like they had made sure to frame everything when it was shot that it would look good in 16:9 or 4:3. So that's another possibility that like the show could be like re-edited into 16:9. But to do that, you would have to go back to all the original negatives on everything and re-edit everything together, and which is what they did for the Next Generation. But then when they had like shots that had like effects composited in and stuff, they had to go like add like all those assets back together. It's a little easier on Next Generation because there's very little CGI. Deep Space Nine has a ton of CGI. Like every time Odo morphs, or everything with the ships from like season 6 onward is like straight up CGI. So with that stuff, you'd either have to use AI to upscale your existing stuff or just actually re-render it yourself.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which is what they did in the DS9 documentary. They had like that fan-made recreation of the battle from Sacrifice of Angels.
Maybe someone can do like something that brings back some of the team that worked on it originally to supervise and upscale in CGI format or something like that. That could be cool too.
But again,
because then it would at least have their stamp of approval.
Who's going to pay for that?
No, I'm saying like they're consultants. Like I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
It's very expensive. So
I feel like there's Star Trek. There's no money in the Federation. There should be all the money in the world should be devoted to Star Trek. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would go that far, but yes, yeah, I would love that. But just
a small chunk of the money in the world.
Let's just be realistic, is what I know. Like no one. I learned my lesson. Like no one cares about realistic. People, I say this, people are just like, well, fuck you. I want DS9 HD now, anyways. So it's like, okay, I mean, you can want in one hand and do something else in the other.
You're so Drukmani today.
Fills up faster. But yeah, I think it'll just happen when it happens. Because they're not gonna spend a bunch of money for something that's not gonna make a bunch of money. That's reality.
I'm with Kaka. I'm
so glad they did TNG. Yeah, I am too. Because as soon as they did that, they're like, fuck, that was a fucking mistake. Look at all this money we wasted. No one's buying these Blu-rays. Wow, we better never ever even think of doing this again.
I have a German set though, which is weird. I thought I was buying one of the, but it's okay. It plays fine in the Blu-ray, but some things are a little off, but mostly it's fine.
Well, if you look really hard on the internet, you can find fan done HD remasters of all of DS9 anyways, but
really?
I think it's not quite up to snuff, but that's just
all right.
That's just my opinion. You should watch it and judge it for yourself. Here's something Geek Filter saying in the live chat there. He says, I hate when someone says on Twitter, give us DS9 HD, cowards, or fill in the blank anything, cowards, so reductive. It's like yeah, like I don't think people understand like it's not like someone at Paramount is just gonna like go like flip a switch and then like, hey, DS9's in HD now, yay, and we'll just put it on Paramount Plus for free and everyone can watch it. Yeah,
I feel like those people just want an announcements. Some kind of an announcement is all they want.
But there's no plan to do it.
Development.
There's no plan to do it.
I think that's what they're trying to say. I think that's what those people are prompting, not like give it to me now. But I understand. I wouldn't call people cowards who work in the industry. I respect them a lot more than that. But I think I've used that joke, Fathery, but not to. I've used it towards.
I roll my. I would love to see DS9 HD, but I kind of roll my eyes every time I see someone on Twitter bitching about it, because it's like, it's going to happen whenever it's, affordable for it to happen, and not until then. So I would just ask people to keep that in mind. But yeah, that's all I got. We went on a long tangent on talking about DS9 HD remaster. But yeah,
what a debate. We should do a whole side conversation about this. This is interesting.
I don't think it's worthy of a debate. I think it's just like, it's not going to happen unless Paramount thinks it's beneficial to their bottom line. So.
It could be, man. I'm just saying that's what my argument is. That's all.
Okay. Well, but we'll be back next week to discuss the 8th episode of season 3. We're getting close to the end, but yeah, it's going to be the sequel to Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus, the Brad Boimler movie. So that'll be fun
This
to check
season
out.
is on fire. I can't wait.
Yeah. I've been incredibly impressed with season 3. So far, it's turned out to be my favorite season of the show, and I think Lower Decks is starting to solidify its place as my. I don't necessarily feel the need to like rank everything or like pick a favorite of everything, but it is starting to kind of feel like my favorite of the modern Star Trek shows.
Fascinating.
I like all 5 of them, but yeah, it's just this season of Lower Decks is just hard to compete with. But yeah, we'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Central on Friday. Also, join us tomorrow night. If you're watching us live on Friday, come back tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about the New York Comic Con news. But until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.